Good evening, everyone.
Well, a very pleasant Sunday to everyone. Happy Sunday. We are delighted, extremely delighted to be here. We're here every Sunday at 4 p.m. promoting the show, Transforming Lives, and today is no exception. We have a challenge with the studio, but we never allow any plot, every scheme, any device of the enemy to stop us. So we're just happy that we have both strong, courageous women and men here who have decided, despite the distraction of the enemy, that we're going to go ahead and we're going to launch this show because we have good news. So once again, welcome everyone. So call your friends. I'm giving you an opportunity to call your friends before we get started. Call your friends. We say call your enemies. Now you should not have enemies, but just in case you do, this is a good day to call them and tell them the show Transforming Lives is on the air. And like we said, we're about positive transformation. So go ahead. I'm going to give you 2 seconds. Okay, time is up. You can continue, but we're going to advance straight ahead on the show. So once again, welcome to every single person, whether you are on Facebook. Now, we see you from time to time, and we hear from you on Facebook that we're not reaching out to you. So right up front, we want to say hello to our Facebook viewers. We want to say hello to those of you on Zoom, those in the Zoom room, those of you on cable channel 974, and for you who are watching via the YouTube channel. Once again, welcome. We have a great show, like always, in store for you, and we have great guests. But before we get into introducing our guests, we always start with the word. And we have our doctor. Our doctor is always on the show with great news. And so I'm going to start with our devotion. I'm going to welcome the one and only Dr. Leslie McMillan to start with Moments in the Word. Dr. McMillan, over to you.
Good afternoon, Sister Gardner. It is good to hear you always upbeat, and even in moments like these you are. And so I'm happy to be able to be with you and to assure that the program goes on as scheduled. And one reason for that, I'm sure, it's because it is important to hear something from Jesus Christ, who is our present, past, and
I think
future.
there might be a challenge with your connection. Can everyone in the room hear him? And just give us thumbs up. Let me know whether you can hear our Dr. McMillan. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Can they hear? Okay. All right. So I just want to say it's a pleasure to introduce Jesus at the beginning because of what he means to us. First of all, he is the only assurer of eternal life. And for us, that is reason enough to have him at every time and in every moment. And when you think of that, it's a fulfillment of a good motto, biblical motto from the very lips of Jesus that ought to be controlling us at all times. Matthew 6 and verse 33, where he says, yes, are you hearing?
Yeah.
Where he said, seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all other things will be added unto you. So we take from that, spiritually and otherwise, that first things ought to be first. And Dave and Sister Gardner recognizes this. And so we take this moment to reflect on Jesus, who is the source of the kingdom. In fact, he is the kingdom. When the Pharisees asked him to show them the kingdom. He says you can't see it. It's not by observation. It's within you. And Jesus said he abides in us. So when we seek him, we are seeking the kingdom. And then when we have him, we have eternal life. That's more important than anything else. But once having him and eternal life, he promises to take care of everything else. So whatever we may discuss this afternoon, and even any other afternoon, it is possible through Jesus. As Paul says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Have a wonderful afternoon. All right, there may still be a connection problem.
We've heard you clearly, Lady Jackie.
Oh, so it's Jackie.
Yeah.
All right.
Lady Jackie.
Yeah, there's some misconnection there. But when she comes on, she should go straight forward.
Mm-hmm.
We have gotten the faith blessing.
All right, thank you so very much. I hope we're having a bit of a connection challenge. But
it's coming through fine now, Lady Jackie.
I'm coming. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're coming through quite fine now. What is good?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much. I don't understand why all these challenges are happening, but things happen for a reason, but we're ready, we're up and going. We're not going to be deterred by those challenges. So today, the theme of our show is child advocacy, and the children are our darlings. The children are our future. And so I am just so happy, not just happy, I'm honored to have three brilliant young ladies on the show to talk about child advocacy. And so let me just introduce our guests. I'm going to call their names, let them say a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get right into it. So our first bold, strong, courageous female on the show today is the one and only Miss Alicia Roll. Now, it is said that Miss Alicia Roll is a public relations officer of the Coalition of Child Advocates. So you could let me know if that's correct. Public Relations Officer. Welcome to the show, Transforming Lives. She's shaking her head. Unmute your mic. Welcome to the show, Transforming Lives. It is great to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. It's great to see you again, Ms. Gardner. Did a few shows with you and Mr. Williams already, so I feel like I'm at home.
Oh,
it's a pleasure.
You know just how to make me feel good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have another individual, Miss Patricia Hannah Perry. She has two surnames, so I can tell you the type of power she's carrying there. And she is president of the
Patrice.
Sorry?
It's Patrice.
Okay, Patrice. Sorry for the correction. No, it is Patrice, actually. I'm saying Patricia, but it is Patrice. Thank you for that correction. And she is the president of the Coalition of Child Advocates. Welcome to the show, Transforming Lives.
Well, welcome. Good afternoon, Lady Jackie, and of course, Brother Lyndon. Good afternoon to my colleagues and to the nation. God bless you. Like Lady Jackie said, I am the president of the Coalition of Child Advocates, acronym COCA, and I'm a justice of the peace. I'm a mother of 6. I come from a background of logistics and administration. I would have pursued a degree in ministry with specialty in counseling and teaching, And now I am pursuing my degree in law and criminal justice. And so we give God praise.
Oh my goodness, what a powerhouse. Okay, keep pressing, keep pressing. We love to hear when our women are moving on up and then they still know the word. So that's a great combination. And then lastly, but in no means least, she's been on the show before and she is a supporter. So that makes me really, really biased. She's a supporter of the show, Transforming Lives. Well, I think all of these ladies are supporters, but she is Siobhan Hollis, the Vice President of Coalition of Child Advocates. Welcome to the show, Ms. Hollis.
Thank you again for having me, and thank you, Bahamas and Global 99.5. It's a pleasure to be back and speak of such interesting and very important topic today. So thank you for having us.
So thank you so much. And it's indeed a very important topic. The children are our darlings. The children are our present. The children are our future. So children are very, very important to us. And so I see this word advocacy or advocate. Who is an advocate? That's a big word. Everybody want to know in the room, who is an advocate? Any one of you can answer.
I'll take a peck at it. So an advocate is basically an individual, a professional, or organization that liaises to government or to the community on behalf of any cause. In our case, it's on behalf of children. So we speak out, we address issues, we advocate for mandates to protect children in terms of laws and policies and all of that. So we do a whole wide scope of work. And like I said, we are a group of individuals and organizations that has formed Coalition of Child Advocates, acronym COCA. So that's what we do.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for that definition. I don't know if anyone else want to add to it, or was it complete in the form that it was stated? Any addition to it?
No, well, COCA, like she mentioned, is a group of national NPOs that came together, pooled their resources together, and really just banded together as a unit. The work of child advocacy it's not just started, it's been going on forever. But sometimes you really have to change your outlook on something when it's just not getting the required result that you desire. And we took a step back and we look at it and we realized that together we are stronger. And so we're NPOs, there's no gain for it. It's just all about fighting for the welfare of kids, to combat child abuse. And our banner is one mission, one strategy, and one ambition. And that is the safety of all children in our nation. And of course, we always say this, and we let them know this is our mantle: we won't rest.
Wow, that sounds like unity and that sounds like purpose. You spoke a lot about purpose, but just drilling down a little bit in terms of why do children need advocates? Like why? Exactly. I'd asked my niece, so she wanted to know what was the topic. And she was asking that question, like, why do children need advocates? So I'm going to ask for my niece, Coco, why advocates for children? Why you need that?
I'm gonna chime back in, but I want to give Alicia the opportunity to respond to it, and then I'll chime in right after she is done, if her connection is strong enough. Alicia?
Yes, I love that question so much. Like, wow. Why children need advocates? The reason is because you have a lot of kids that do not have a voice of their own. You have a lot of kids, if something is wrong, adults do not listen. This is the reason why we are here. We are here to make sure that the adults in these children's lives know that, hey, we need to protect them. We need to have them. We need to give them the safe space. A lot of times kids can relay what their needs are. That's what we're here to do. That is why children need advocates. Just simple and foremost, that is why.
So I don't know, Ms. Vin-
Yes. So in that regard, children are innocent. Children are at the root. It's as simple. We can use an analogy in terms of our virginity, that which is sacred to us, the purity of us, and the purity of everyone in this nation and the nation itself is children, our youths. And so we find that a purity, something that is pure, have to be protected. It not only have to be trained toward how we go about it, how we utilize it, where we place it, but it has to be protected at all costs. And unfortunately, we have seen a gaps or a lapse between where parenthood is, child protection, and our government. We know that there is a system that is set up. Children are so precious until if it happens, it may not be so notable, recognizable, or even done that prevalent, but children are, if they are considered uncontrollable or a parent can't meet that need or for whatever reason, they are admonished by the state to be able to bring those children forward. For too long, as time went on, because a lot of our morals or the characteristics of the nation sort of advanced and not necessarily in the right way. And so we've found ourselves having children based on an emotion, a little gist. Oh, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. So pregnancy is like the new fad. I'm pregnant. And then you have these kids and you realize, wait a minute, that kids have to be fed, kids have to be loved, kids have to be nurtured. But parenting is a real life goal and a job, and individuals are falling short in that. And they're leaving their kids to be brought up by whomsoever will. And they're also leaving their kids to be preyed upon by whomsoever will. And then therefore that leaves the great expanse between what the system has set up. Not that it's so excellent, but at least we as a nation have something in place, what the system has set up and where people are with their children. And so we are advocates. We are the ones that will speak, that will fight, that will stand, that will remind both public and personal. We will get right up close and personal. If we have to go right outside Government House, if we have to sit in the House of Assembly, like whatever it is that we need to do, we have mandated that upon ourselves, taken that upon ourselves as advocates. And so they, being the purest of the pure form of us, they must be protected. And so that's why children need advocates.
Wow. So thank you so very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
if I may,
go right ahead and add to
sorry.
that. Go right
Yes,
ahead.
if I may, real quick, I totally agree with both of my colleagues. I would say it's the moral thing to do. So I'll take it a little step further. As any responsible adult, it is each of our duty to protect children in the Bahamas. Whether we are parents, guardians, friends, families, it's a moral obligation to protect our future, which are our children. So I wanted to add that. So it's our duty. We don't have a choice.
Wow.
We don't have a choice in that matter. Thank you.
Now you extended that clarion call. It's everybody's mandate. Now you made that, you just put that out to the public. So ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know that before previously, the call and the charge has been given, the call made, charge given. It is the responsibility of every single adult to protect our children. So once again, I'm going to use my niece. And so I just wanted to get a feel because she's 10. And so I use her as a gauge when I'm doing anything relating to children. And I asked her what she feels. And then I'm going to get your response to this. What she feels is the number one need of a child. I'm going to since you're the expert, I'm going to see whether you're consistent with the response that she gave me. So what is the number one from where you sit and the situations, what tend to be those needs, those gaps you see happening within our homes around the Bahamas? Can you speak to that? And then I'll tell you what her response was.
I will start, and then I would allow my colleagues who have children to talk. I would say outside of love, protection. A child wants to feel protected, and that's our quest. That is our mission, is to ensure that they are being protected in the homes and outside of the homes, at school, wherever they may be. That's our mission, is to ensure that they are well protected from any predators, any harm to them. So it like I said, it goes back to us as a civilized society and knowing what we are faced with, which is to protect our children. And we have seen lately a rise in heinous crimes against our children. So we are lacking somewhere. So that's why we have formed coalition of child advocacy, so we can bring our strengths as various organization, nonprofit organization, so that we can help our country and help our society. So I'll turn it over to my fellow colleagues to add to what I just said, please.
Thank you.
Well, from my standpoint, from how I see it as an educator, is that this is something I like to say. I like to use it in terms when I'm talking to adults, but I also use it for kids. You have to nurture the whole man. In this case, you have to nurture the whole child. And in doing so, yes, protection, like Siobhan says, is top key, is creating that safe space for that child to know that, hey, I have an adult that has my back. I have an adult who's on my side. I have an adult who will listen, who will not hurt me, who will ensure that I am able to function in the best way possible. Also, is that you have to take in the fact that emotionally with children, you have to deal with their emotions, with their minds, and the physical body. You have to cover everything. And that is what child protection to me really is touching every aspect of that child's life and making sure it's at the top notch where it needs to be for that child. It has to be the best. It has to be where there's no fear. A child should never fear for anything. A child should never want for anything. I remember my mom used to tell me how back in the days, how communities got together and they protected, they disciplined, they cared, they looked after, they watched for the children within their neighborhood. And it saddens me to see that we don't really have that right now. Just for instance, the case that just happened with the young boy that was found in the pond. It took days before anyone could have come forward to say that this child was missing. That should never happen. Never. You in a community with children, I should be able to tell you I haven't seen a particular child in the last 2 hours. I should be able to tell you that go to that parent and say, I noticed something off with Jean or with John. You know, we have to, so protection is a big thing, but it also creating that safe space for that child, making sure that they're emotionally fed properly, making sure that mentally that they are in a right place, making sure that they have just covering. I call it a covering. Make sure they have that covering. That's what I call it, a covering. I'll pass it on to Lady Hannah. She can expand
Yes, I can
some
see her
more.
smiling. She has some more to add to that. Go ahead, Lady
Yes.
Hannah.
Lady Jackie, wow, listen, it's such a pleasure to connect with you and the show today, and to all of your viewers and listeners. Listen, this is top notch. This must be our priority. The children are our future, and we have to once again grab hold of that scope of that sphere and see that sphere like that to know that's the direction we're moving in. But I cannot take away my colleagues' answered so excellently. They need all of that. And what I would add to that is children need respect. I feel that children have been disrespected. We disrespect their space. We disrespect their innocence. We disrespect their mindsets. And so many times the right to be a child has been stolen away from a child. According to society and the pressures that it has placed upon us as adults, we have sort of diverted that and placed that upon a child. That caused them, a lot of their youth was just stolen away. And in that regard, kids were left vulnerable. They were left naked. They were left exposed. Okay? And so if you could do anything for your child, it's going to come. The discipline would be under respect. The nurturing would be under respect. The caring, the facilitating of care would be under respect. You have to first respect that child as a child. I remember a few days ago, I was heading on my way home, and I don't think I was with any of my children, but I was alone in the vehicle, and I stopped to purchase some nice avocados that were on the side of the road to make me some nice smoothies and guacamoles. And this young lady, she was there. I mean, she had to be in her 20s, and she was sitting there with the individual that was doing the sales. And she kept like tormenting the child. And no doubt the child is nagging. No doubt the child is sort of getting on her nerves. But the truth is, that is the characteristics of a child. We are losing the concept of what it is to be a child. And when we take away from children their childhood, which they have only once in their lifetime, they say once a man, according to the word of God, and twice a child. But watch this. It's not the same type of child when you get old. It's only the principle of being able that someone will carry you around because you're old and you need assistance, okay? And even at that, the assistance needed for children, that has been taken away from them. So I do say that when we can respect them for who they are, for whatever their strengths are, for their apps, they're not the brightest. They are the brightest. They are responsible. They're irresponsible. Regardless of what it is, we have to respect them and meet them where they're at and nurture them through that. Children are a heritage from the Lord. And the Lord asks us, put it upon us to rear them up and bring them up in the fear and admonition of him. That's lacking. But like I said to that young lady, do you know? I said, honey, don't do it. I said, it's no need to come down so hard on her. I say, do you know, I've been a parent now, Lady Jackie, for 28, even 27, 28 years this year. Okay? October would make me 27, 28 years in, both married and with the child. And so I say that to say parenting is a lifetime goal. It's also a challenge. I told her, like I mentioned to her, it is to help us to submit, to become patient. The virtues that we need within ourselves is actually brought out through our children, through the youths that we deal with. They could never be an adult. They were born children. They were made to be as children. And when the time is right, they will develop into something and someone great in society. Respect our children.
Wow, great answers. I mean, well, you incorporated, both of you incorporated the response of my niece. She said, Auntie, parents need to listen to children more. Parents need to listen. And I think a lot of the misconception, I'll call it misconception, starts in our home where we pick up sometime false belief, I would say, passed down through generation. You know that I can remember growing up with this, and you would be able to relate to this. A child should be seen and not heard. And when we have such convictions, I guess that's because that's how they're passed through our family. Like we treat them like it's a fact that our children should be seen and not heard. And we don't even explain really what that means, We just shut the child down. All the child from their perspective, that means that you shouldn't say anything, right? And when there is a problem in the child's life, then some parents wonder why the child did not come, whether it's a father or a mother, why the child did not approach him or her. Talk a little bit about the challenges because this is a big one. And I wanted you to talk it not just from our homes, right? Because we somehow believe that not being able to give a response is almost like a sign of respect. Like we speak, and our child not responding is a sign of respect. This shutting down is a sign you just receive and don't give anything back. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think in the Bahamas, we have a culture, and it might be in the Caribbean. It might not just be unique to the Bahamas, but there's a culture of this shutting down of children. Tell us a little bit from where you see what happens when we perpetuate this shutting down of children.
If I may chime in, firstly, that approach is not only unique to the Bahamas. Like, I live in Bermuda, and that was the culture here, or still is. So it's a cultural norm in most society of, African Americans or whatnot, where I was told, be seen but not heard. When adults enter the room, you leave the room out of respect. However, I will take a little peck at it from a child sexual prevention facilitator, of which I am. That is the leading cause of children not speaking up or in regards to abuse. Sexual abuse is number one. It could be physical abuse. However, like I said, I would speak from the aspect of sexual abuse. Whenever we are telling our children, they should be seen, not heard. That basically is psychological. It does something to them, because when they are being abused sexually, physically, otherwise, how would we expect for them to come forward when we have shut them down, when we have closed the door for open communication, or for them to let us know who's the abuser or how long it was ongoing, when it started, etc. So that, even though we were taught that, we need to break that curse. Nowadays we have, and especially in the Bahamas, we have a very high case of sexual abuse against women and children and boys. So we have to tackle this from face on. We have to be educated as adults about the signs and symptoms of child sexual abuse. And there's a program that I do, without kind of advertising, that we have done, and COCA members are fully certified. It's called Swords of Children, where we train adults in prevention and mandatory reporting, and in recognizing child sexual abuse when it comes to your children. So this is not unique to the Bahamas. This is a global epidemic, and it has to be tackled from head on. Like I say, we have to get to the point where we communicate with our children. They are humans and they have rights. Just like we have human rights for adults, the children have rights as well. So we have to be able to listen more to them, not judge, and just support them and tell them you believe them when they share something with you. You have to rebuild that trust and connection with your child. So it's very important to have an open communication with your child or children, or a child that you take, dear to you, your loved one, so that if anything happens untoward or that may be harming them, that you would know and know how to react responsibly. So I'll turn it over to my other colleagues to respond.
All right. In reference to this particular question, I can speak from my personal experience. I am a survivor of being molested as a child during my teen years. And the thing that was for me was that I didn't feel comfortable talking to anyone in my family about what was happening to me. As a matter of fact, they just learned maybe 3 years ago that this happened to me. They did not know. And the fact that I wasn't comfortable talking to them, and it all stemmed from me being in grief from my father dying and not being able to express what I was going through, what I was thinking, the emotions that I was feeling. I didn't feel safe to do it within my family concept, or with my mother or my siblings or anything like that. And someone came in from the outside and they befriended me. They became a friend. It opened that door where this person was able to prey on the fact that I needed that outlet. I needed that someone to talk to. I needed that person who respected my views as a child, and I could share. They did not judge. Just like Siobhan said, there was no judgment from them or anything, and they prayed on me with that because of that opening, because I did not feel as if I could talk to anyone. And that was their way into what happened to me when I was younger. And I've seen it happen many times over and over to other children that I deal with. It can be sexual abuse, like Siobhan says, even physical abuse. It can be emotional abuse, even mental abuse with these children. And these are things that they experience within their home, and they feel as if they cannot talk about it. They cannot share. That is one of the reasons why I always advocate. I always push for making sure you create that safe space for kids. You have to create, I like to call it that safe circle, where they have this circle of adults that they know that they can trust, who will always be there for them, always have their backs, who they know no matter what, I can go to you, I can talk to you, I can say what is happening. And trust me, I've heard that phrase. I might look young, but I'm not that young. Children are to be seen but not heard. I've heard it. I grew up with that. I grew up where if adults are speaking, I need to zip it. If my mom have guests over, I need to exit the room. You know, my mom used, at least my dad used to use this one before. Don't ask me for nothing. I'll give it to you if I think you need it. Don't ask me for nothing. So, you know, you didn't have that space because parents back then, they were so strict. And even now, you still have some parents that are still really strict with their kids, that the child fares them to the point where they feel as if I cannot tell you anything, because if I do, you're going to go off on the rails on me. You're not going to listen to what I have to say. And it's just going to be where I get punished for how I feel or what I'm thinking. And that opens that door for that. I like to call them those little dark monsters to come in and manipulate, take control of that child and knock them off the rails of the train on life where they actually supposed to be going.
Wow.
And I'm going to turn it over to Lady Hannah. She can bring it home.
Listen, I will say this. Genetics has taken its place in a situation like that, and even in terms of the verbiage, because it is no longer, I grew up with that concept, yes, but I cannot affirm. And I am the parent, I've parented 6, I'm the grandparent of 1. And so I cannot affirm that statement that says to this generation, children are to be seen and not heard. Now what they do, I've witnessed this. I'm out on the streets. I do a lot of community and charity work. I'm in the homes. I'm out there and I see, and so it's not that that's being said, but now it's an action. And so the action is, why come up my face? Go find something to do. Girl, get up my face. Go that way. Okay? And so what we've done, we've run the children in our Bahamian dialogue. We run them. And when you turn them away, then they then turn to what my colleagues, a lot of what they turn into or happen upon a lot of those uncertain situations. It is so serious until when I mention something like genealogy. I have a little toe, and thank God for this little toe looking back to normal, but I have a little toe. I bugged that little toe so much when I was growing up on the little iron bed, walking past the little small room in Mummy's house. Until the toenail began, just a small little toe on the right foot. And that the toenail began to like look a little small, a little halfway to the side. And legitimately, I had a child that was born with that toe. That gene just come up through me. So I say that to say, unfortunately for us, witnessing something like you could maybe bend your arm, buck your toe, and eventually you have a child, and that child could come with a feature looking like something that just happened. It's the same right now with children. I have a daughter, one of them, like I say, I have many children. Call me the woman with many. And she is the type of personality, more introverted, And so even when she's speaking, a lot of times I say she'll walk in the bedroom or in the area where I am. And I always respect my kids enough. I'll stop in the middle of any conversation and say, yes, is it important? I'm on the phone, I'm in a business meeting. You know, what's going on? Do you need me now? Is it urgent? And sometimes with me doing absolutely nothing but listening, and someone else is there, someone a part of the family in the house, she'll walk in and she'll say, go ahead, baby, what you say? And she'll look and she'll start to say a few words and she'll just say, never mind. And I've been working with her, she just say, never mind. And I've been working with her because I want her to know that no, it's never a mind. I want to know. I don't know if what you're saying to me is going to be something so important at that moment that I need to hear. And so the evolution of the statement of children are to be seen and not heard has turned into a pushing away. And it's also genetically now formed to the point where children are naturally, some of them are naturally born into a situation. They come in with a personality or characteristics of not speaking up. They would rather hold it in, go into a corner. And so there's a lot to be done. There is a lot to be done to clean up the mess that our generation has made and the generation before us while doing their best, maybe even unintentional, you know, but there's a lot to be done and a lot of work, even from an advocacy standpoint, to be able to assist these children and see what their needs are in such a broad scope, everyone being different. The Bible says we are all members of one body, yet still one body. And so each child being so unique, different personality, different way, different structure, but each one has to be cared for, has to be looked after, and cannot be turned away, especially not on something that we know that hurt us so much. Go that way. Huh? Children are to be seen and not heard. Don't speak. You can. And unfortunately, I want to add this. Unfortunately, we have turned that into where we have pushed them away, but at the same time, we've allowed them to be so engulfed in what is adulthood when they're really children. And so then you've really created an imbalance there. I can't see and talk adulthood, but I get to do and act adulthood. So it's, or even vice versa. If the child is confused, we're confused. We have to reset the system, as it were.
Oh, that's heavy. That's a deep one. That's heavy what you just said. So much could be said about that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on Transforming Lives, and we are talking with Ms. Carrie, Ms. Alicia, Ms. Siobhan Hollis, and we're talking about child advocacy, a very important subject, not just locally in the Bahamas, but around the world. Our children are our present and our future, and we need to take the time to deal with our children issues. And so we're discussing some of those children issues, and I want to give those where this 1 hour is never enough time. It just goes by very quickly. So I just want to give anyone who is in the Zoom room, I'm not sure how, because I know Dave is attending to another matter, but maybe in the Zoom room, someone might have a question before we proceed. We are always excited to have you in the room and appreciative of you being here every week. And we want to give you an opportunity to express yourself on every single show. So if there's someone in the room, could you just identify, raise your hand, and we will be happy at this particular time to entertain your question. Any question in the room? Okay, so we have look like listeners this time. I see some feedback. All right, so just going back in terms of advocacy and talking about parents. Let's talk a little bit about parents. How can parents partner with your group? Work not against you, work with you. Tell us how parents can partner with you. You're doing a wonderful work. How can parents partner with you?
I will start by saying it expands more than parent. I know parent is the key link to a child, but it can be a guardian. You know, some parents are no longer here with their kids. It could be a responsible adult. So how they can get involved or you know, be a part of COCAR is you can volunteer. I would encourage, from my aspect, every adult that is listening by airway, by radio, however they're listening to the show today, to reach out to Save Our Children Alliance at gmail.com and get the training, get trained in child sexual prevention. So I will speak from that aspect. It's no excuse to not know what's going on, and we have to change our mindset. We have to remove ourselves from society taboos. We have to also educate our young kids about safety of body parts. So it's so much to this, but we have to start by becoming aware as adults, and we have to get educated and looking and recognizing and knowing about what's going on. You know, it's just too much going on not to know. It's too much young kids' life that's being lost, that's being, their innocence are being robbed by not knowing, you know, or knowing and not addressing it. So I would encourage any adult, parent, guardian, family member to get educated and protect our loved ones. You know, like I said, it's our moral responsibility to ensure every child in the Bahamas, every child is safe from harm and could live a fruitful, a successful, a safe life. Thank you.
What an appeal. Miss Alicia?
Get involved. Like Miss Siobhan said, get involved. That's one of the main things to do. Get involved. Be intentional. Get involved. And I'm not a parent as yet, but I have my nieces and my nephews. I have my students. And one thing I like to do for them is to have them know that, hey, I'm here to listen. You can talk to me. You can share with me. You can talk my ears off, talk my ears till it fall off. Just talk to me. I'm going to listen. And children love when you respond back to what they say. Ask them questions. Let them know that, hey, you actually care. Once a child knows you care and they are comfortable with you, they will share with you. They will let you know what's going on with them. They will not keep secrets from you. They will not hide things from you. They would always be truthful to you. They will respect you. And like Lady Hannah say, respect them. Respect that child. Get involved and respect them. Honestly, I always look back at my past experience as one of the main reasons why I'm doing this. I know what I went through. I know the trials that I had to go through and endure just to be this person sitting here today. And it took me a while. And I believe if I was in that frame of mind when I was a child, that I was safe, I felt safe enough to speak to adults in my life, things would have gotten nipped in the butt before it even started. I feel as if even as I got older, if I was in that space where one of the biggest things, one of the issues we have, another issue we have is mental health issues here in the Bahamas, especially right now. If I was in a space where I looked after my mental health when I was in my early adulthood and not waited as long as I did, I would have been in a better place. I would have been here much quicker than it took me to get here. So, and it always comes back to this thing, the mindset. And this is one of the reasons I always love the name of this show, Transforming. You have to transform that mindset. You have to change that. And until that mindset is changed, that will be the only time we will be able to protect our future. That's what our children are. We have to change the mindset of how we look at taking care of our children, how we look at what our kids need, what needs to be done. It is our job. We don't have a choice in the matter. We have to create that future. We need to take on, this generation needs to take on that mantle that our parents left. We need to take on that mantle and create a better future for the ones coming up. So when they come, they can take on our mantle and do something even bigger and better. And that's how I look at things. So it's all about changing the mindset and then starting a new work.
All right. Thank you so very much. Well said. I see a question in the room. I think this is Phil Dorset. Mr. Dorset. Go right ahead. Unmute your mic. I see your hands raised.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Yes, can I make a comment?
Go right ahead.
Okay, of course, transforming.
Lives.
Yes, yes. Yes, okay, yeah, sure. It's transforming lives, or was it transforming what?
Yes, no, you're correct. Transforming lives.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
I think one of the things about children is, first of all, they learn what they live. You cannot say one thing to a child and then they see you somewhere in the house or outside of the house. When you're on the phone, you have a certain mindset, but for them, they're not supposed to do what you're doing. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big one.
For them, it's a red flag. The next thing is, today, the children's room is on their phone. The physical room is now on their phone. So there was a time when you could not enter their room, because now, of course, this is at a certain age, but even younger children now are locking the doors to their rooms. And you do not have access to these rooms. I don't understand it. But the problem is that these phones are where these children are being abused sexually. It don't have to be something physically or you're being touched physically. There's a lot of emotional things going on a telephone or cell phone that you know nothing about.
Absolutely.
Of course, I've been teaching for a number of years now, and I know a lot about young people and how they can swing you and how they can pretend, they're good pretenders, but you have to be smarter than them. If you're going to be a teacher, you got to be smarter than your students and let them know that you ain't just born today. So I think this thing about transforming is very important because it's very subtle. The devil is a subtle person. If you blink, you miss it. And so it's important to be aware of what's going on in this almost 22nd century now, this 21st century, and the ways and means in which people are abused. A lot of it is mental, and I think less of it is physical, because people know that words are powerful.
Yes.
Words carry a heavy weight or meaning, and we need to know how. Well, first of all, we need to learn how to use words ourselves as adults and as parents, because talk is not cheap. Talk is not cheap, no matter what BTC says or what Alive says. Talk makes a big difference. Some parents will keep their mouth shut and they prefer that somebody come to tell them that something is wrong with your child. Mind you, they should know. They are the first, what I would call, policemen in their child's life. And they should be the ones making sure that no predator, whether that's a friend, a stranger, or somebody online that is manipulating them and using their space as a place to abuse them. And sometimes it's their good friends who do these things, who sexually abuse them. It's like date rape. You go on a date and somebody puts something in your drink, and then you know nothing about what's happening, and so you lose everything. But this is supposed to be your friend. So you need to be smart. You need to be aware and stop burying our heads in the sand, and let's face the music and get tough on these sexual matters that will destroy our children. And so trust me, continue to talk to your children. Don't isolate yourself. The pandemic has shown us that if you isolate your children, you're going to see what's going to happen when exam comes, when the test comes. And so it is in life. Continue to monitor, continue to talk. Don't worry about if they call you this, that, old fashioned. Don't worry about it. They do not even know what it is to care. So they don't know whether you care for them, but you are. And so, it's like when you used to, well, I did beat my son maybe once or twice, I think. But it was worth it. And when you look back today, this is a decent young man who's doing well. And, he has no hangups about anything. He is being trained. But in that training came some punishment. And so we need to act on these children. They are not old people, they're young children. So within that age group, do not assume that they're too small or too young to be disciplined or to be told that you need to cease and desist from on this line thing, all of these social media things. You need to cut the fat and start thinking about things that are going to save your life, protection. And so this is basically what I want to say. I don't want to hog up the whole line. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I mean, pertinent information. Well said. I see Ms. Hollis wanted to jump in there. Were you about to say?
If I can add, very good insight from Mr. Dorset. Just to add to what he was saying, actually, the national statistic states that 90% of sexual abuse occurs from a family member or someone the child knows. So he's right on point when he said that that's why it's important that parents, guardians, any adult, all adults need to be trained and be able to recognize, know how to react responsibly, and know how to report, mandatory reporting. So it's important. We don't have that luxury of not knowing. It's too many children's lives and innocence have been robbed for us not to know what's going on and how to address it in a responsible way.
Great point made. Someone else, go right ahead, Ms. Rosanna.
Okay, I would like, and of course I agree with Mr. Dorset. Sounds like a senior parent to me. And I'm a parent in expertise at this point. I have all expertise in it, and I give God praise for it. It was not an easy road. You don't just have them and then assume you know how to handle children. It really is a task you go through each day, each month, as you go through each year of the child's life until they get into adulthood. But I would like to note that we are dealing with a societal reset as it relates to our children. And so abuse, we have always looked at abuse as physical. But like Dorset mentioned, emotional. There's a role that we play in society that's so vital. And that abuse, linking it right back into what he said, is even allowing your child to just go away and take in anything, consume anything, hang with anyone, be around anything. And so that's why we were still given parenthood or guardianship over the youths of our nation so that we could rear them up in the right way. About 3 nights ago, my daughter, she's 22. It was in the evening. And I asked her to go on a run for me, an errand. And because she, of course, drives. And she laughed like a good daughter would. And so I'm calling one of my other children in the house. And one of my other kids come to me and tell me, say, she went with her. I say, went with who? How in the world she ended up out of my house and no one told me? Now, to keep in mind, it's my older child. You don't get to take my child out the house. I need to know where My child, even where you are, yes, you're an adult, but out of respect, I ask you to communicate. You're not an adult. You live in the apartment, the efficiency that we gave you. Okay, you're still in the complex. But at the same time, I'm saying, thank God you respect me. But see, that was a disrespect in itself. Never, ever take her out. And so they went out. I guess they did my errand. They came back a couple hours later. Well, I did address that. And I said, and when they came in, not hastily or abruptly, but I spoke and I said, listen, please. I called her in, this is the older one, and I said, don't you dare ever disrespect me like that again. And of course, there's this confusion mode. What are you talking about? I didn't disrespect you. You disrespect me by assuming that you have the authority to take my underage child out the house without first consulting the authoritative figure in her life. And so I needed to know. I could have given consent. It's like we say, it's like zero. It's like nothing for it to happen, but not without consent. And she left abruptly and upset. And then I spoke to I called the younger child in the bedroom and I told her, don't you ever. I said, now you take time out to reflect on exactly what I'm saying, because for me it's a matter of respect. You know how much I love you? What I would be so concerned you out there, and if something happened, I didn't even know you left the house. You see how that made me feel, and so this is why I'm acting this way. And so it's an all-around scenario. Our guard can't be down any way, any which way. This abuse is not only, even though we advocate really very, very hardly against, more so against that physical abuse, sexual abuse, okay, and even the abuse that led to fatality. But also we have to do a reset with mental abuse. The nurturing, the discipline, all of this care is very important. And so to your point, Lady Jackie, when you said how parents can get involved, parents can then reach out to COCA itself. Our website will be up and running shortly, but we have member partners that are on the ground. And so you got Human Rights Bahamas, you have the Marco Foundation, Rise Bahamas, Silent No More, Save Our Daughters, the Dignified Girls Project, Save Our Children Alliance, and several more. So get in contact with these groups. They're a part of us. Find out what role you can play. Become more vigilant. We have gotten to the point, I swear, the silence has become overrated. We just minding our own business till we minding our own business to death, Lady Jackie. I see how they grow up their children and child, that's what they want, and let them be. But what we miss is this. Only adults, stay with me in the Holy Ghost here. Only adults have a separation. Kids, whether they're around you or not, when they get together, they play as one. They hear as one and they live as one. So you can afford to say I'm just gonna let them go because I'm rearing up my child. No, your child will be influenced by what that other child does, whether it be directly or indirectly, and that's a fact.
Very true. Very true.
And so I want you to keep in mind, open your hearts and open your minds, open your eyes to what's happening in our society. Become again the village that rears up the child. Whether that be by reporting, because we know we can't address a lot of parents, guardians. They so touch us. We can't even say this is right or this is wrong. But yet again, if you could give a good word to a child, if you could send out a good message, if you see something going wrong, begin to put that child in prayer, put that family in prayer. Listen, there's still methods and means that works. If you can financially donate to nonprofit organizations like ours, there are many of us, we do charity work and we need the help to go out there and to rescue children, to save lives. There is a training that goes on. My VP, Siobhan Cash Hollis, actually mentioned it, and it's a darkness to light course. Okay, it's a SARS course, and it's actually being able to identify where there is abuse going on, issues with children. You'll be amazed. You have to retrain, rethink. Don't think it's business as normal here, business as usual. Lady Jackie, I want to commend and admonish my fellow Bahamians. Stand with us in this battle. Advocacy for the rights, welfare, and well-being of children.
Well said. I got my email address. I took it out of the room. It's a great work, big work, and definitely would want to know a little bit more information about your organization. But our 1 hour is 5:10, and we should have been off by 5 o'clock. And that can tell you the importance of this conversation. Really great information that you're sharing. And so I'm going to give you closing comments, starting with you, Ms. Hollis, and then go into Ms. Roll, and then I'll end with you, Ms. Carey. Closing comments.
Thank you so much for having us, Ms. Gardner and Elder David William and the team at Transforming Lives. I would say this cause or this mission that we are on, it's nonstop. We do appreciate your airways allowing us on your platform, so that's helping as well. And like Madam President Hannah Carey stated, we reach out to any of the organization. We have FOAM Bahamas also is a part of the organization. So we have a great team of grassroots NGOs that are on the ground that are doing their work. Not everyone comes in the front of the camera or, comes on the airway, but we are doing our work, and collectively we have one mission, strategy, and ambition. So it's nonstop for us. We have big things planned for COCA. And we will, we would not rest. We won't rest until every child in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is safe from harm and can live a healthy life. They deserve it. They didn't ask to be here, but it's our moral obligation as adults sitting in this room and listening and watching. It's our duty to protect them. That's all I ask. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you, Lady Gardner, for having us on the show. We really, really appreciate this opportunity to share. I would just like to leave this out there to every Bahamian. Like Ms. Siobhan said, it's our job. It's our obligation. It is time for us, the adults, to change our mindset, because it's the only way that we can build a future for our future. And I so love that phrase, build a future for our future, because that's what our children are, our future.
Thank you.
Put in the building blocks, that foundation for them to build on top, and make sure it's a good one. And education is the biggest thing. Education is the biggest key. Get educated as parents, get educated as persons in the community. One of the things I am pushing right now on my personal platform is the SCARS training, because that training is so important. It's something that I use regularly in my classroom. It is how I'm able to identify if I have a child who's dealing with something at home that needs to be addressed. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse. It can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional. This program, I suggest everyone do it. I wish everyone would do it. I wish every adult in the Bahamas would do this course, because here they will learn what to look for and ways in which to help our children, to protect them, to be there for them, to create that safe space for them. But the main thing, education and changing the mindset. Those are the two words I want to leave. Those are things: mindset, education. Keep that. If that's anything you remember I said, just remember those two things. I'll turn it over to Lady Hannah.
Boy, you all having it. Listen, Patrice, Hannah Carey.
Put that Carey in there. That's important.
Listen, so to Lady Jackie, Sir David, Sir Lyndon, to the listeners, to the viewers, to our Commonwealth, whomever you are, let's get on board. Work together to save a generation. Thank you so much for having the Coalition of Child Advocates here on this show today. We were most blessed. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you so very much to our guests. Thank you to those of you in our audience. We've been a bit over time, but you're still in our Zoom room. So we say a big thank you. As we are about to close the show, Transforming Lives, I saw this quote and I thought it was so timely. It says, there can be no keener revelation of society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. I think that's powerful. Let's treat our children well. We've had great admonition. Let's join hand with these advocates, become a part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. It's been my honor, Jacqueline Gardner, to be your host of the program Transforming Lives. Mr. David Williams is somewhere there in the background, but on behalf of the entire team, David, Lyndon, Jackie, we say thank you so very much once again to our guests. Thank you to you, our listeners, and join us next week on the show Transforming Lives. Have a beautiful Sunday. Bye, everyone.